Welcome to Probate Weekly, our Thursday afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We get together and learn about how to get more probate business. This is for brand new investors, wholesalers, realtors, real estate professionals. And whether you're new to probate or starting out and looking at how to get started, or experienced, we want to share ideas, best practices, and how we can make it work. So I'm going to start today with just a little bit. Every week I cover a little bit of the content. And my premise, as started me doing this, was a little frustration. The companies that sell probate data and marketing services really only focus on one of two ways to get business. They teach you either to they sell you the data and either call the mail or market to petitioners, executors, administrators of estates, or market directly to attorneys for business. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those. They're not probably the best for most people. Most importantly, they're not the fastest way to get your first deal, particularly for an agent either starting out or even an experienced agent. There's no reason to start that you have to spend, say, 3 hours a day cold calling business. A business, you may not have that time. So I made a list of 11 different ways to generate a sale in probate real estate. But in addition to that, in addition to the ideas of how to get a sale as a real estate agent or salesperson in probate real estate, I've also created 11 ways that you can make money. And this is really important. That you need to think of yourself as a business person. Now, if you're looking just to change jobs, real estate's a commission job for you. This isn't for you. This isn't for you. This is for somebody who looks at their business like it's a business. And so if you run a business, I don't necessarily think you have to have multiple streams of income. But I do think you should look at synergistic and opportunistic sources of income. That sounds like a lot. What's all that? What that means? Let me get my picture out of there. What that means? There's a better video. What that means is that you should look for opportunities that will make you better. 1 + 1 is 3. I'm a real estate broker. If I help investors buy probate real estate that later they fix and flip and I list, 1 + 1 is 3. You follow me on that? So also I would say that if you help buyers buy probate real estate, you end up generating probate listings as a business. So 1 + 1 can equal 3. If you get the concept, say yes. If you don't, say no, put it in the chat box. Yes, or raise your thumbs up or thumbs down or verbally, but give me some feedback. Do you guys get the concept of what I mean by synergistic? So I got some thumbs up there. Okay. And by the way, if you are on live with us on YouTube or on Facebook, you'll be able to get the chat. We'll see it here as well. So feel free to put your information, your answer in the chat box live, and I'll try to watch for those. Okay, so that's synergistic. Then there's opportunistic. What do I mean by that? I'm not saying you should start a whole new business venture on these other things. I'm saying that if you're a real estate agent doing your job, looking for people who want to buy and or sell property on a daily basis, then it makes sense that you will find you'll find opportunities of properties to buy and sell and make a profit on, fixing and flipping them or fixing them up and holding them. Does that make sense? That's called opportunistic. I was on the phone today with an agent. I don't see him on the call. He might be here. Where he does his 9 to 5 real estate is commercial, but he was looking to do some probate residential business on the side or as it came up. And the one thing I always tell people is, why is not your 9 to 5 also your wealth building business? They should be together. And I got into real estate initially to learn how to be a great investor to make money that way, right? So that's what I mean by opportunistic and synergistic. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick and show you guys what I think are 11 ways that I believe you can make money, not 11 ways to make a real estate sale, but 7 ways that you can make money in real estate handling this kind of business. Now, again, just because we're on the screen up here, I don't want you to feel that we're not interactive. So if you have questions, I want you guys to jump in with questions either in the chat box or live stream, okay? So the first thing I would say to you is that mindset comes before money. Whoa, we got some people making some noise here. Let's see if we can meet people.
This is one of these bags.
Okay, we're gonna mute people, and then we'll allow you to unmute yourself. Okay, you guys can hear me still? Yes? Okay. So, yeah, you guys can hear me? I think so.
Yes, we can hear you.
Got it. So mindset comes from money. I want you to get the mindset you're a business person. And we get the mindset that all of this should work together. Nobody's saying sell houses and then become an investor and then wholesale and then do loans or whatever else you do. I'm saying you should be doing it synergistically, where one supports the other aspect of your business. And you should be doing it in a way that you're generating leads by your business for the other lines of work. I also say, though, that you have to invest time or money in any business to be successful. Real estate is a contact business and a numbers game. And it's important where you come from. If your goal here is to help a customer, I'm going to show you different ways you can help your customers. What I don't want you to do is find ways to fleece your customer from 8 different angles, if you understand what I mean by that. So let's talk about, let's skip some of this, 11 ways to make money in probate. Not just selling, because number 1 would be invest, find a good property and buy it and hold the property, right? Most of us got into real estate to accumulate property. And so you should be looking. Now, if you're an investor, you might say to me, where are some good real estate deals for me to buy as an investor? And I'd say to you, well, probate might be a way to go. But if you're in probate and every day you're calling petitioners, executors, administrators, attorneys, or you're mailing to them or whatever you do, and there's a good property, have your head open to look to buy it and buy it and hold. If you don't know how to do that, learn. Find somebody who can help you learn that business. But that's one additional stream of income you should be pursuing. A second one's flipping property. This is one that I do. I don't like holding property. I probably flip 2 or 3 a year. Now, I have to disclose everything properly. So when I meet a principal, I'll say to them, I'll buy this property from you. I'm an investor. I'm not going to represent you. And there's a card form that they sign saying, I'm not representing them. I might find a principal as a buyer to work with on the transaction as well. But I'm not going to represent a seller and buy his property with the intention of reselling it for profit. That makes no sense at all, right? Any questions so far? Does this make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay, good. You're all muted, but you can unmute yourself. I'll allow you to do that. So number 3 is do construction. One of my good colleagues, Paul Krause, he has remodeling Tuesdays, I think noon Tuesdays. He's in the South Bay. He's a contractor. And he does the same lead generation to either buy and sell property as an agent or to get construction jobs, because that's his area of expertise. He meets a seller and he can tell them what it's going to cost to fix the property up and what it can get for it on the market when it's done. So I would only say do this if you're a contractor, or you're related to a contractor, or you have a partner who's a contractor. You can get paid marketing dollars to bring business to contractors. Number 4 is wholesale. Now, wholesale is not flipping. Wholesaling is get a deal under contract and sell it to somebody else. Difficult to do if you're an agent. You have to really be precise because you have a license. And if you approach the customer initially as an agent, you might have responsibilities to that client to get them top dollar. But if the client knows you're going to flip the property, you do it and or assigns up front, you tell them up front that's what you're going to do, you get them an execution they couldn't get on their own, that's serving the customer. So it can be done. There's the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. Number 5, you can lend money to an estate. Now, this can be a little tricky. There's people who do that. And I would say, if you want to get into it, find somebody who does it, watch them do it once or twice, learn the process, and then you can partner with them or do it on your own. But you can lend money to estates and make a great rate of return if you know the business and know what you can do and what you can't do. You can advance money to the estate. That's a different business. Lending is, we're lending you $50,000 and you're paying us fees and interest either monthly or accumulates and you pay at the close of escrow. An advance is the estate has money coming to it, theoretically, and they might be getting $300,000, $400,000. They might need $10,000 or $20,000 up front. Long before they're going to settle the estate, they might need that money to pay the mortgage, taxes, fix the property up. They may just want some cash. If somebody's due $800,000 a year from now, they might be willing to advance $10,000 or $20,000. Now the rates on that, it's like a payday loan. They're going to pay, if they're going to borrow $10,000, they're going to pay back 15 or 20. But they're going to avoid penalties, and they're going to avoid losing the property. They're going to avoid stress and pain and struggling. Maybe they need the money to hire an attorney, without which they'll lose the estate. So these are all things that they have to think about. But I would say it's a great business. I created my own. There's a company that I've used and referred business to, and they pay a commission. My problem was I referred a couple to them and they declined the customer. And again, I'm not just doing the advance, I'm also trying to get a commission. So I can't let the customer be declined. I had to find them another advance company, and I found another one. And so I actually opened my own company. So if you have a client who's an heir to a property who wants to advance $10,000 or more of their money up front, literally within a week, they can sign papers and get that money within a week. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Okay, I got somebody there. Okay, I'm going to have to, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, Pamela, I don't think I can, but that's a good point. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so advancing money to the estate is another option. Buy the heir's interest in the estate. That's another option I've seen done, right? Where just one second. Where the heirs have a house they don't care about, and literally I've had investors say, "We'll buy your interest in this property. We'll give you X amount of cash now. We'll give you X amount a month to cooperate with us through the process, and then at the end they get paid a bonus or some sort, or some money left over." So definitely that's another option that can be done, buying the heirs estate in the estate. Now, another one is real estate services during the process and after. Sometimes they get a property and they need to property manage it. That can be a source for you to get property management business. Or they need a residential mortgage loan. They're going to get money from their estate and they're going to go buy another house. It's going to generate business for you that way. Legal related services. So if you're going to market to petitioners, you might consider a document prep service or a paralegal service where you're servicing people who are going through probate. They need help with their paperwork. I know a service I recommend people to. I know some people refer that service and charge an extra $100 or $200 and make money doing that. Well, it's not a lot of money, but if you do 5 or 10 a month, obviously that can add money to your marketing budget. And number 11 is financial services. People coming into a large chunk of money need some help. What should they do with it? Consulting, advice, getting their tax returns done. So some whole world of options that you might consider marketing with somebody, or if you do these businesses, you can do them as well. And number 11 is become the administrator. And I know somebody on my team who does this for a living. She's a fiduciary, professional fiduciary, where estates have maybe multiple parties or there's no party who can do the job administering the estate. It takes time and effort. My wife and I have managed both our parents, all 4 parents, I guess you would say. And recently lost my aunt, and my sister is the administrator of the estate. It's a lot of work. You can do that job and get paid hourly. The court will have to approve that amount. So it has to be reasonable based on the services that you do and subject to approval, and it's capped. But on $1 million estate, that could equal up to $23,000 or more for bigger estate. So I tell people sometimes if it's that much work, you should be charging for your time. If you're not doing your normal work and you're making $100 an hour, you can charge and get the court to approve $100 an hour while you do the administrative work on an estate. And there are people who would hire you to do the work as the administrator. As long as the heirs are okay with it, as long as the beneficiary is okay, you can be a professional administrator and get paid. Again, it has to be approved by the court. But if you can document what you get paid, what your hourly rate is, if you're a CPA or you do other consulting work, you have an hourly rate that you charge, certainly you can get paid that to administer the estate while you're also, and administer the estate sometimes allows you to also sell the property or do financial consulting, other things as well. So again, just to recap, there's 11 different businesses in addition to just selling houses. We didn't even cover that one. You can invest the property and hold it. You can flip property for profit. You can do construction work, like general construction work, because most probate houses are older and need work. You can wholesale the property. You can lend money to the estate as a lender, a mortgage of some sort secured by the property or secured by the assets. You can advance to, not this estate, this is actually wrong, advance to the heirs. Any heir, doesn't have to be the leading one, the administrator, any heir who has money coming, theoretically can get a percentage of that advanced to them. And so you can do that business. You can buy out the heir's interest in that estate. If they have a house and they don't be bothered with it, it's just too much work for them. And you can give them cash up front and they can sell their rights to that. Real estate services, property management, loans, buying other properties, and they're going to get a chunk of money. I had a client who got a chunk of money, and they wanted to buy some income producing real estate with the money they had afterwards. Legal related services, paralegal, doc prep, financial services, consulting, advice, and tax returns. And then last, become the administrator. Now, I can add a couple. I've made money this year as a expert witness. I got hired by an attorney to testify on a case he has. That's number 12, maybe. Kind of a rare opportunity. Anybody else think of any other ways you can make money while you're doing your probate business? Or anybody make any money in other ways that I haven't identified? Did I give anybody any ideas on how you can make a little bit more money? Anybody at all? No? If so, put yes in the chat box or give me a thumbs up. If this was in any way,
these are good ideas.
Yeah, and I think the ways that you can offset the cost of your marketing, right? You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a money-losing venture. It can be something where you're doing these things for the purpose of making some money. Let me get myself out of the screen, and let me get out of the share, and we're off. Okay. So the idea here is to be opportunistic and think about how can you make money in your business, and think of it as a business. And set up your marketing to feed that business, right? Okay, so I covered a lot. Good ideas. Thank you, Sharice. Any of these out to lunch ideas? No? Okay. Any questions or comments on those ideas? I went through pretty quickly, but my goal here is to make you think like a business person. You know, too often real estate people, it's like it becomes our job. Our job becomes selling houses or wholesaling or investing. And we end up in a 9-to-5 job, but we don't end up building wealth because we didn't take, first off, mentally the right approach. We're building a business. And I can tell you this, I'm building a business. I'm building an empire. Love to have you be part of it. You are part of it. If you're on the call today, you're part of my empire. You're part of my business.
Thank you. I got a quick question. Can you expound more on becoming the administrator, I guess, for the estate and getting paid by the court?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who has the right to file a probate? Answer is anybody can file probate. Different people have priority. So without going through all the legalese, spouse would have first priority, children and parents would have higher priority than somebody else. And then, it could be cousins, it could be a creditor. So if nobody's selling the house, a creditor, like a mortgage company, can file a petition to probate and appoint themselves as the administrator of the estate. And they have to follow all the rules and regulations. Well, they may not want to do it themselves, so they might want to ask somebody else to be the administrator of the estate. So what happens is you might find an estate where there's 4 or 5 siblings, none of them want to do it. Most commonly, they'll hire an attorney. If the attorney is the administrator, then they can and often charge both to be the administrator and the attorney. And in fact, you've doubled your attorney's fees, right?
Double dipping.
Double dipping. So, and I think that double dipping is fine if you're doing twice the work and giving your customer twice or more value. Double dipping is not fine if you don't explain it to your customer or you're not giving them more value for your job. If all you're doing is the same thing you would do as an attorney. No extra work. Why would you charge extra? Well, sometimes they'll say, well, we need somebody to do these certain administrative things. They don't want their administrator in the office or the paralegal to do it. So sometimes they'll hire a third party. Sometimes there's two siblings fighting. They both want to be the petitioner. Neither one wants the other to do it. They'll agree to an independent third party. That independent third party could be a friend, a family member, could be an attorney, could be a professional fiduciary who does that for a living, and the people who market themselves, particularly on bigger cases. But on smaller cases, you could be the fiduciary. And you could say, I'm the fiduciary, and normally I would charge the same fees allowed by law, but I waive them if I end up selling the property as a real estate agent. Or I cut them in half if I end up being the real estate agent to give them incentive to use you. So you can charge whatever you want to charge up to the legal amount. On $1 million estate, that's $23,000, and it scales up and down from there. So you can charge what you want to charge as long as the parties agree and the judge approves you as the administrator. But you have to pass that test, and it is not common for individuals to do it. Normally, people who want to have a background. They're a CPA, or they have a law license. They could be a real estate broker, maybe with property management experience, right? But you want to put a resume together and file the proper motion and document why the court should accept you as the administrator of this estate. Does that help a little bit, William?
Yes, sir. But what is the certain duties for the administrator? Well, basically going down to the court.
Well, the administrator's duties are the administrator's duties, whether it's a third party or a son or daughter, it's the same, right? So you know what the duties are of an administrator, basically, don't you?
Basically find out the debtors or the people that the decedent owes, work out a split between the heirs, I would guess, and settle any other assets the decedent might have, and maybe even set up an agent to sell the property if that's what they want to do, or an investor to fix it up or something like that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than that. And there's actually a form called the duties of the administrator that gets filed with the court that you have to sign. And you might want to read up on the responsibilities of filing a probate. There's different books on the subject, but basically that's it. You're no different than any other petitioner. They don't know when they file on their own, but if you're going to help your cousin or your friend or your uncle do it, you're entitled to get paid for it. And as long as you can justify the rate to the judge, you'll get paid for it. Narita,
is that a certification or anything? I'm sorry.
I don't know if there is a certification for fiduciaries. I know there's an association of professional fiduciaries. I don't know if there is a certification specifically for that, but I do know there's associations. I also know that many of the people who are professionals are CPAs or attorneys. And again, if this is the case where there's a lot of real estate involved, it might be appropriate to have a realtor do a lot of the work, a lot of the prep work, what's the property worth, and getting the documents together and those kinds of things. Calling the mortgage companies to get the statements and property profiles. That would make you an expert and a qualified fiduciary for that type of an estate, right? So it depends. Narita asked, do you need credentials to be an administrator, like a license or certification? Well, no. You don't need one legally to be appointed, but the judge has to agree to appoint you. So it's not common that a third-party administrator is not an attorney. That's the most common one. Or a family member. That's the second most common one. So if you're going to ask the judge to approve you, you better have a good reason why you're capable of doing the job. And in your petition, you should include, I think, understanding what the job is and your resume as to how you can do it. But there are people who do it. It's not magic. It's the people who put that time in and create those resumes. And of course, once you do one, now you've done a second one, you get a testimonial, you attach that, you do 2, 3, 4, next thing you know, you have a whole business. Okay, Sean asked me, I have a probate client asked me, what's better tax benefit in either selling the property in probate to the state and giving the proceeds to the heirs, or giving the house deed from probate, then selling the property, which I believe will trigger short-term capital gains. I think you're right. That's a question for an accountant, but many people who are going to get the property in probate get it up at a stepped-up basis with no tax ramifications. But if the property is sold to you by the estate, then you're going to trigger at a minimum capital gains the day that the estate got it. But I would say there's a number of other issues. Also, it's about reassessment, and the laws there changed this year in California because California doesn't have enough laws and enough changes, enough chaos. We changed our laws on assessing property between heirs this year, and so there's certain reasons why passing it in probate is not the same benefit it used to be, and there's other reasons why it is. So I would say to you, that's a very complicated question you should talk to an attorney on that case about, or a CPA. In fact, I have a CPA with the firm that I use, Robert Hall & Associates, who's going to be speaking here in a few weeks, on about 3 weeks actually, on these topics, talk about taxes and things like that. But to answer your question, that's a very specific, the answer to that question is specific to that estate, and they should get some specific professional advice. Does that help, Sean? Is that a fair enough answer?
It does. Yeah, thanks for the input. I'm in Maryland, so I'll definitely talk to someone in my state. But I have another question in regards to the 11 ways to form a business in probate. And these are all great. My question is, how do you protect your financial interests when you are advancing money to the heirs or the estate, or you're buying the heirs' interests? What paperwork is needed and what needs to be filed to the court to protect your financial interests?
I know the answer in California, and I would say to you, I can figure out how to get the answer in Maryland. The way you find it in Maryland is I would search public records where the lender has the word in it, advance and or inheritance. And if you have a title rep, Sean, are you an investor? Or are you a real estate agent? What do you do?
I am a couple of things. I'm an investor, I'm a licensed agent, and I just got my Maryland home improvement license. So these 11 are really giving me some great ideas.
Well, if you're a real estate agent, you may know a title rep who can get you public records of mortgages issued in the last year with the words advance and or inheritance in it. And you'll find those companies who've done that and the document and the case they've done it on. The other thing is in probate cases, again, I don't know Maryland, but in California, when you look at a case and the parties, it will often list interested parties. And you'll see different companies with the words advance and or inheritance in it. And so now that you know they're on that case, you go in the case file and look for the document they filed that has their how they protect their interest, and you can copy that document. You follow me?
Awesome. Yep, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, that's how I came across that.
Reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering, exactly. Doesn't mean it's going to work and be foolproof. You might want to show an attorney. I think also Sean and William both, what a nice topic to have for an attorney friend as a way to help build a relationship is show them this, and maybe you pay them for an hour or two of their time to review it and say, is this going to work? I would get the form in your state, but get their feedback if they think that's going to work or not. And because that could be some really good business. And then Nurit actually added another business. It's true. Notary services. There are people who are notaries. I think particularly in the Latin community, the word notario has a particularly prestigious title to it, more so than in English. I don't really know why. It seems to be a cultural thing. I think notaries in certain Latin American countries, it's a more rigorous criteria maybe than it is in California. But definitely, notarizing documents, there's no reason why. Now, keep in mind, you can't notarize documents when you're party to the transaction. So if you're the realtor, you can't notarize the grant deed or those kinds of things. But certainly, there's some documents that have to get notarized along the way that you can make some money on. Sean, happy Thursday. Thank you. And here's a question. What's my recommendation to get property management accounts for probate properties? So Alex, are you saying how would you use probate marketing to develop property management business? Is that your question? So it's in the chat box. So Alex is asking about property management, how you develop more business. So the first thing I always say to any salesperson whether you're a real estate agent or a wholesaler who wants more business, is first start with what you have. And so how would you get more property management for probate? The first thing I would do is make sure my current clients know that I'm, learning about probate, that I'm involved with a probate business, because they may know somebody who has a probate estate that needs property management and may have not have thought of you, and that can trigger some business. I'd always start with that, right? Second, I would definitely market to attorneys that if you have property that needs to be managed, larger estates often have multiple properties and need the services of a professional property manager. So I would definitely market to attorneys that you have that kind of service. Again, starting with attorneys you already know and already have a relationship with. Okay, hope that helps. Alex, give me some in the chat box if it doesn't, if you need some more. Notario in Spanish means attorney. Yeah, but there's also the word abogado, no? But I think notario implies attorney in the Latin, in Spanish. But we would use the word, I think here, abogado is an attorney, correct? Right? Who speaks Spanish here? What's the word for a lawyer in Spanish? I'm better at eating tacos and drinking margaritas than I am actually.
Abogado.
Abogado is an attorney. But again, in American, I think we think of that as attorney, but I believe notario in the Latin world also means it's like lawyer, or the equivalent of kind of like an attorney, whereas in English it doesn't have that same impression. So yeah. Okay, so Alex, good, that helps. Thank you. If I know. Abogado Spanish. Yes, good. So my Spanish is a little better. My Spanish from high school is a little better than I thought it was. Notarizing has been extremely lucrative. Pamela says, I notarize for title companies and lenders. Pamela, I think that notarizing is a great business. And if you can leverage that, now, of course, you have to follow the rules of the title companies you work with and lenders you work with, but you're meeting people at a very intimate time. And if you work that properly and build a relationship with them, they're refinancing now, but they're going to sell in a year or two. And they're buying a house now, but they're going to sell in 5 years. And I think it's really important, for a notary, you have a great opportunity to network. If you're not going to do real estate yourself, to network with realtors or lenders and parlay one notary appointment into several and or higher commission rates. So I would definitely love to talk to you about how to do that. And Pamela, what state you're also a realtor? There you go. So, and I would say just do a better job. Brentwood at Los Angeles, very nice. So, I had a guy interviewed on this a call about a year ago who was a notary, also a realtor, friend of mine. And, but I would say that generally speaking, none of us do a good enough job keeping in touch with the current clients. And I would urge you, Pamela, and all of us on this call to do a better job of contacting people we know and do business with so you can turn that business into future business. Studying for my MLO. So I'll say this, Pamela. Pamela says that she's studying for her mortgage license as well as realtor. I used to have an MLO. I used to be a lender before I was a realtor, and then I did some sales. I realized that I could not do both real estate sales and mortgages at a really high level. I could do them both above average. But I would say in today's market, if you do business above average, your pay is going to suck. That's the technical term. The only way to make good money is to be great at something, to be the best at something. And so I just urge you to think about, if you're going to get your MLO, just make sure it makes you a better notary or better realtor, or the other two make you better MLO, and make one your primary, and make sure that it makes you better at that one. Because being a jack of all trades, I just meet so many people who have the MLO, real estate, notary, insurance license, and two other things. They're selling solar, but they're not making money at any of them. And so I encourage you to really try to focus in on being a specialist and create more value for your customer that way. Okay, hey, I've done all the talking, I think, today so far, or most of it. Who's got a question? So that's what I have to talk about. I have some other questions, but before going to any more questions, who has a problem that's on the live call that I can help with? Anybody? Raise your hand, put it in the chat box, or just unmute yourself and jump in here. Let's make it interactive.
I have a question. This is Sean again.
Uh-huh.
So I have another client. They've lived in the house since 1970. Her uncle and aunt owned the property. They both died probably back in the 1970s. Now they're in a situation where they owe taxes, and so it's the house is up for tax sale, but they never went through the probate process. So no
Yep.
one's on the deed. Everyone that was on the deed has passed away, and there are some heirs that has interest in the property, but it's never gone through the probate process. I don't know really at this point, how to guide them because they're up in age, and typically, when you have this type of situation, you have to put out a bond, which requires a certain credit score, and I think they have challenges in all those areas, and
Sure.
just need some help in that regard.
Sure. And so they're in Maryland,
This is actually in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. So I know even less about Washington, D.C. probate than I do Maryland. I know a little bit about Maryland. But here's what I would do. Let me back up. If they sold the property, are they going to use you as the realtor?
Well, either me as a realtor to sell it or me as an investor, they are interested, they're willing to entertain me purchasing the property as well.
What do you want to do?
Whatever, it's a win-win-win situation. I'm prepared to do either. Either buy it as an investor or to list it as an agent.
So, I mean, it's a tough walk to go both ways. And, but here's what I would do. They're going to have to probate it, I believe. I don't know the laws in Washington, D.C. at all. But what I do know is a great resource. You can go to easy-probate.com.
Okay.
And they have a basic package of $650 for probate, $1,250 for concierge level. I recommend that. You can start the case for $120.
Wow.
And what I would do is I really hold the customer's hand through this because typically they're not able to do it on their own. They really need some help. Any family member can file probate. It just might be that another family member might say, hey, I want to be the petitioner and file a competing petition if there's such a thing in Washington, D.C. I don't know. Easy Probate will know for sure. And I think more importantly, you get the process started, somebody will jump in. But it's a much cheaper way to get the job done than hiring an attorney. For $120, they're going to know the answer pretty quick.
And with Easy Probate, will they also do the advertisements in the paper as well? Do they do everything that's required?
So they'll tell you what's required, but normally the paper you have to pay for separately. So in LA, they'll tell me, well, here's the vendor you have to go to, or you can go to that will do it. The vendor knows what to do. They take the case and they'll prep it and show it to you to look at, and then you approve it, and then they run the advertisements from there, if required. So they'll work together. They'll make that happen. You don't need to have any real expertise on what it should look like. They'll get it kind of all set up for you, and then you just have to pay for it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay.
Sure. Great. Other questions, challenges, problems?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I like my prospecting questions of probate, but I ran across a petitioner in my probate prospecting. His father passed, and it was just him and his sister as the heirs of the property. Well, the beginning of this year, she passed away. Now he has an issue with her husband and the kids, the 3 kids. So, but when I talked to him, I said, hey, well, I could look at the property, do a BPO if you need it. The probate is started last year sometime in October, so it's almost a year. So he originally told me that the court appraisal was like 600. That's why I offered the BPO. But once I talked to him, he was like, it was like 400, and we agreed on $200,000 to take care of him. So my question is, how can he, since he doesn't own the property, it's in his father's name, and he has limited authority, how does that work? I told him he most likely have to speak to his attorney to see how that, if he has somebody to work that out for him, but I'll do some investigation on my own as well. So
how much equity is in the property?
it's since it's in kind of, bad shape, if he sold it as is, it's probably around about 450, 475. It's in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But if he fixed it up, it'll probably be like 600,000, and it's paid off.
Okay, and so how much money does he need immediately?
200,000 to pay off the heirs, the husband. Well, the husband to his sister that passed. He said, yeah, if you pay me $200,000, I'll, it'll take care of me and the kids.
Okay, so, but your client wants to keep the property, or he wants to sell the property?
No, he wants to keep it.
Okay, so he can purchase the property in the probate, right? If he's limited authority, it needs court approval. And what would happen is he's going to get a loan. If it's 450, he's going to pay them 200,000. He's going to get a loan for 250 or the 200 plus closing costs.
Mm.
And the loan would be a regular conventional loan or FHA or whatever kind of loan, because at the end of the probate, the property is sold. He owns the property.
Mm.
Right. So that would just be a regular transaction. They can get paid off through the probate process.
So since he's the administrator or the executor, he would have to ask the court for him to sell the property to himself and get approval for $200,000 to pay, to sell it to himself.
Correct.
And the proceeds goes to the heirs. Is that correct?
Well, and so without knowing the detail of the case, the proceeds, he may not be able to have all the money go out to the heirs because the judge is going to make sure there's no other debt. So if the case is a year old, usually there's not as much outstanding debt that's going to pop up. The judge might be more agreeable. If he has a bond, also that would cover any potential creditors and heirs as well. But generally speaking, yeah, that's how it would work. You buy the property at the close of escrow, he owns it, and the heirs get the funds come to escrow is the loan, and that money then goes out to the heirs. So yeah, definitely that can be done through while he's still in probate.
Okay. So that's the only way he can do that, or is that just one of many ways for him to settle the heirs?
I'm sure there's many ways you can settle the heirs. What else? Why does that not meet your goal? What else do you need? What else is need done?
No, I was just wondering if there's more than just one way of like selling it or transferring in his name and then get a equity line of credit to pay them, or.
Well, he can do that. The problem is he can't do that because that's taking all the equity of the estate. If there's money in the estate, he can set aside the cash to pay them off their share, and he can have the property deeded to him. But if all there is in the estate is just the house, there's no other money. There's no other way to do it other than that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Chris F. Oh yeah. Hey, Sean, you might want to get with Chris F. in the chat box. Chris F. is also from Washington, D.C. market area and knows probate. We're talking earlier today. And so you guys should, Sean, I think we have a couple of Seans on the call, but Sean with no last name identified. And Chris F., you guys should exchange contact info offline and get together. Okay. Thank you, William. Any other questions, comments, challenges, problems we can help with today? We've got a few minutes. I have a question from the chat, but you guys who are on live, anybody else have a question I can help you with? Always give priority to the people on the call live. Anybody? No, not seeing any. Okay. So I got a question from a colleague of mine, JJ Engberg. And he asked the question, what does certified probate expert or similar title mean? What does it mean when somebody says they're a certified probate expert or other titles? So I'll tell you what I think it means. I think it means you went to a course In the end of the course, the company allows you to call yourself that title. And it concerns me when I hear people say, well, I'm a certified probate expert. I took a class. And I'll say, yeah, well, I took the same class. It was, 3 hours, or there's a more involved class I took that was 4 days for about 4 or 5 hours a day. But still, that doesn't even count as one class in college or high school in terms of hours. And when you call yourself an expert in a technical area like probate, I think you have to be a little careful as to what your claim is. And so to me, it means just what it is. You can call it whatever you want. But I think more important than getting a certification, more important than that is you learning the skills and learning the business. Because not only will that make you more effective for your client and yourself in being successful with your business, but that will give you the confidence to speak to people with authority. Right? If you ask me about probate, most things, I'm going to speak with authority, not because I have 4 or 5 little logos, and I only showed the first one I got. I'm probably maybe too lazy to add the other ones, or just not that vain. But my point is, I believe when I talk about probate, I sound authoritative because I know what I'm talking about. And that's what you want to have as an agent. So don't settle for the little PNG file in your email saying you're an expert. Be the expert. Learn the material. Go to court. Read the books. Watch YouTubes. Listen to podcasts. Become an expert. Come on this call weekly. Share some challenges, problems. Share solutions. To me, that's more valuable than any course is ever going to give you a little picture for your email. And then another question I got from Abraham Santana last week I couldn't get to was, how do you know how many cases an attorney does per year? So what I can tell you is I downloaded every probate case for about the last 3 years, in LA County only. I subscribed to several services and I download them and I merge them together. And I did some data analytics. And one of the things I learned was 95% of the cases are done by attorneys who do 1 case per year or less. It's about 800 a month in Los Angeles County, about 9,000 probate cases a year. And of all those 9,000, about 500 done by a series of attorneys, and the rest are done by people who do 1 deal or less. So how can you do anything well if you do it once a year or less? And so the problem is, I think, yes, attorneys are generally smart people, but their license, like ours as realtors, is very broad. They can do, with that license, divorce work and drunk driving and criminal work and civil work and wills and probate and bankruptcies. But it doesn't mean that they know all of those things. Generally, the ones that are really good only do one. I happen to have a neighbor who's one of the top divorce attorney litigators in California, in Los Angeles. She has some very high profile, I don't know who I'm allowed to talk about, but some very high profile celebrity clients. But all she does is divorce litigation, meaning if husband and wife are getting along and want to have an amiable separation, she's not the right person for that. That's just not her personality. It's not that she wouldn't like to see them get along, but her business is when you and your husband decide you're going to war legally, you hire her. Similarly, I would say with attorneys in probate, good attorneys who do nothing but probate administration, maybe probate litigation, are great. But the ones who primarily do other things, in my experience, make a lot of mistakes in the probate and affects the client and costs them time and money. And I have thousands of examples of that I've seen personally by being in court. So I can say that with authority. And I don't mean to beat up on anybody. I would say the attorney, for their sake, they should specialize too and be better at one thing rather than trying to do a lot of things. I say it with compassion. I say it in a way to try to encourage them to raise the bar. So to answer your question, how do you know, how would a client know how many cases they have? Well, me as a probate expert, I have the data. And that's one of the things I offer my clients is to know how many cases that attorney's done. Now, I also subscribe to a great service, probatemoney.com. Probatemoney.com. And Probate Money is a service that was devised by attorney, well, I should say, it was inspired by an attorney, Paul Horn, probably the most prolific attorney in Los Angeles County. I've seen him in action. Some attorneys don't like him, and part of that is because he can be tough. But I can tell you that he's done, I think, more probates than anybody. And he got together with a technologist, Vlad, who I actually interviewed this week on YouTube. I just put the link in there if you want to see about my review and how I use that product. But one thing, and I don't get paid for this. In fact, if you sign up through their program and use my name, Bill Gross, they'll give you 200 additional cases to download monthly. But I go in and show you how I use the software to look up a case, so I can put in the name of an attorney and see how many cases they've done. And I'll show that to a client. Hey, this guy knows what he's doing. He's done 5 or 6. Or he's only done 1 or 2 in the last 3 years. That's a problem. So I think as a professional, when I say I'm an expert, to me that means I know things like how many cases attorneys have done in my county or the counties that I service. That's one of the things that they expect, my clients can expect from me. Was that helpful?
Definitely.
Again, I'm not selling the program, but I'm selling you on getting the tools to do the job, to be great at it, to make a fortune, and be great at it to service your customers and help families keep wealth in their family. It just kills me to see, we talk about people struggling and poor people not getting a fair shake, and with all the tension we have amongst races, go to court sometime. You want to see heartbreaking, watch families hiring attorneys. It's like a cockfight. I've never been to one, but I've seen them on movies and stuff, where the roosters like fight each other. You almost feel in probate court like the attorneys turning the family members into fighting gamecocks. It's just pathetic. And rather than do that, my job is to try to get the right people for the job so the family can get the best outcome, keep the wealth that their grandparents worked so hard for, keeping the family to build on, to make our country better rather than torn apart. Okay, I'm a little on the soapbox on that one, so forgive me. I can go on that one forever. But I'm here to help. So we're going to wrap up here today. I'm Bill Gross. I'm the LAProbateExpert.com. We do this every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you signed up, you'll get a link to the YouTube, and you can watch the replay. You'll get reminders every week. If you sign up through Eventbrite, you'll get reminders every week of the call. Love to have you. All of this is on YouTube, and it's also being podcasted. We just got onto Spotify. We're getting added onto iTunes and Google here later this week. So I really appreciate all your support. If you get the video, if you like it, please like it. If you like and want to get more, subscribe. I'm doing an interview series. I continue to interview key people in our industry. And if you subscribe, you'll also get notified when we do either off-the-cuff live events or when we do this weekly one as well. So thank you so much. Also, anybody who comments.
I have a quick question.
Let me just finish one thing. Anybody comments, I think I respond to your comments. So feel free to put comments into the YouTube or you say.
Oh, no, I just wanted to know whether or not somebody, if they don't know an attorney, a good probate attorney, do you ever do any referring of an attorney or give a couple of names that we can use or choose from?
I think almost every day, Marcy, I get people who text or call me with that question. And the right answer is always specific to that case. When people say, do you know a good probate attorney? I know a lot of good ones. I know a lot of bad ones. But let's find out what your case is. And I will also say that 2/3 of the time or 3/4, rather than starting with an attorney, I'd recommend a service. If it's just a plain probate, one beneficiary, what appears to be a simple process, or everybody's on board, they can save a lot of money by going to a service. If there's multiple beneficiaries and some problems, that's where you need an attorney. You need the right attorney. So definitely, if you have those cases, call me, text me, email me. I don't get a referral fee from the attorneys. I'll help you get the best outcome for your client. Okay?
Super quick question.
Sure.
Can you you know a lot of real estate agents in the probate field. Is it possible maybe have a success call on interviewing a probate agent that's having success prospecting and closing deals, so that way we can like copy what they're doing so we can be successful?
You know, I've thought about that. I mean, I've been interviewed and then I see other people that do interviews. Now, one of the challenges to that kind of series is that sometimes people are successful, but what they're doing to be successful isn't duplicatable, right? And so the important thing is there's somebody doing something that you can do and add to your business. Some people, it's just their personality. Some people, they had like the top probate attorney, top probate realtor in LA, started a career as a paralegal and knew a lot of these attorneys from the inside. Well, unless you have that same relationship, you probably can't get to that same spot. But definitely, I have that in mind. I have a list of different things to add to my channel. Interviewing top probate realtors is one. I'll also say this, William, if you have a success you want to talk about, come on, call us, talk about it, and record that snippet, and I'll give you that snippet, it'll be on my social media. You can use it on yours as well. But if you know anybody that you think is appropriate for me to interview, I'd love to interview people. That's something I'm doing all the time now.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure,
All
man.
right.
That's any of you. If you want to be interviewed, you think you're appropriate, reach out to me. Thank you, everybody, for participating. William, as always. Sean, thanks for being on. Marcy, great seeing you again. Wesley Harris, I see you there. Thank you. Sean from, I think, Maryland, thank you. And everybody, appreciate your support today. William Holmes, always a pleasure. You guys have a great, Janice, have a great week. If I can help you, call me, text me, email.